Rocky V came out in 1990, starring Sylvester Stallone. This is not a good film. It's regarded as one of the worst movies ever made, and is even rated by Stallone himself as the worst in the Rocky series. It's directed by John G. Abelstein, who also made the first film, an Oscar-winning movie. This entry into the series sees Rocky coming back from his big fight at the end of the last film. It soon becomes very apparent that Rocky isn't quite himself in this movie. He stops talking like a smart, mature guy that he was in the last two films and suddenly sounds really stupid again, just like he did in the first film. The film tries to explain this by saying that Rocky is suffering from brain damage. But we get no scenes whatsoever later on in the movie that actually refers to this brain damage and what the extent of the damage actually is. We get one scene in a doctor's office and that's it. What's even more inconsistent is that when Rocky gets back from Russia, the little boy that played his son in the last movie has suddenly aged about 7 years and is now played by Stallone's real-life son, Sage Stallone. This film is a complete mess from start to finish. I'm not sure what the intention was with this film, but there was obviously way too much studio interference and way too many ideas floating around. The plot of this story is completely off the wall. We get quite a lot of exposition scenes with Sage Stallone, and it shows how Rocky's kid might be struggling at school. He gets his lunch money stolen and he befriends this girl. That whole subplot was somewhat interesting, but it's wrapped up way too quickly, and it's almost like the movie was just embarrassed about the whole thing. Like, why couldn't they just have some more scenes with the son and less scenes with Rocky and Stallone's terrible acting? There is a small scene later on in the movie where Sage Stallone is sitting at home watching telly with the guy who bullied him, and we're supposed to believe they're suddenly friends now. Okay, why couldn't they show more scenes of them being friends? Why not? I'm flabbergasted. But right, Rocky has lost all his money thanks to Paulie and is now working in Mickey's old gym. He meets this young fighter named Tommy Gunn. He starts to train Tommy the way that Mickey trained him. My God, Stallone just comes off as annoying as hell in all the scenes he's in this movie. The inspirational hero that I admired in the first film is just completely ruined in this entry. There are a lot of really long training scenes that are played against some of the worst rap music I've ever heard. That's what this film comes across as, a really long, boring music video. We also have this really seedy boxing promoter character in this film, which is such a blatant rip-off of Don King that you wouldn't believe. This character is what eventually leads to Rocky and Tommy falling out. Tommy eventually wins the title, but he's still very angry because everyone thinks that Rocky is better than him. And the film tries to wrap this all up by having Tommy randomly show up at a bar while Rocky is just sitting there drinking and talking to Paulie, and Tommy challenges Rocky. That's right. There isn't even a boxing match at the end of this film. It's just a street fight, and it's the most painfully directed and poorly acted street fight you could possibly imagine. The single most painful thing about this film is that it's directed by the same person who did the first film. I just cannot fathom how that even happened in the first place. Like, this was a film that I really admired and really inspired me in every way you can imagine. The first movie, that is what I'm talking about. This film is nothing. It's a complete piece of crap. and I cannot believe it was directed by the same person who did the first film. I can't get my head around it. They did seem to want to take the series back to its roots. I'm kind of sensing that, but still, it just doesn't work at all in this movie. They make all the wrong decisions, and it just was a complete and utter train wreck. They have Rocky a complete moron, and before we know it, Adrian is working in the pet store again. So what? The characters have gone full circle. Suddenly they're millionaires, and now all of a sudden they're poor again. Great. That is just what a lovely ending to the story. Rocky also dressed the same way he did in the first film. And the whole thing is just an insult to the great movie that the first one was, and even an insult to the other sequels in this movie. Even the last film was a lot better than this one. I wasn't looking forward to watching this film. I remembered it being bad, and it's even worse by my standards now. I'm just glad I got it out of the way. I'm giving this film a 2 out of 10. I look forward to Rocky Balboa. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my videos, and I will see you soon.